Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Kay in the Courtroom. As you guys can see, Kay is with us. She has a new ring light. We're excited for that. Kay, how are you feeling?
Doing okay.
Nice. Also with this, as you can see, potentially criminal. Sean was very nice to give us a little bit of his time. Sean, how is your day going? Thank you.
I'm doing great. Well, thanks for having me here.
Fantastic. So I believe we've gotten to the plea deal part of the Ricada case. As you guys know, he made his plea. I believe the court has accepted it. Sean, you'll correct me as I go, of course. And doesn't hurt my feelings when you do. But while it was going on, we had somebody in the courtroom and it's been it pretty much through the whole time. Kay, what was it like seeing Nick for the plea deal part of all of it?
This time I didn't see him that much. Him and Kayla stayed in a conference room until it was starting, and they walked in. I saw their faces maybe 3 to 5 seconds before they took their seats, and I left the courtroom before they got up to leave. So I didn't see them that much this time.
All right. Well, did you hear like any of the procedure that was going on at all, like with the judge or anything like that? Like, were you able to watch him at all?
Oh yeah.
What was that like? What did you hear? What did you see? Did you see the part where like the judge was talking about him being able to go to Las Vegas or anything like that?
Oh yes, that was towards the end. Yeah.
Oh well. So
Yeah.
you want to then start and kind of tell your story a little bit, or?
Yeah, that it was pretty. All of the hearings have been pretty short and you know, not a lot to them. Um, but yeah, the judge went over all of the questions he had for Nick, and then Nick's lawyer went over pretty much almost the same things again. And then there was a very short, I think you called it an allocution, John? The
Yes.
allocution?
Yes.
Yeah. That was very brief, and um yeah, then he brought up the dates for Vegas.
What was that like? Could you see the judge and you could see Nick?
Yeah, it was fine. I could see the judge. Um, yeah, I get the impression with the judge and the prosecutor. I'm trying to figure out like how much are they paying attention to what's going on online, and I don't have a lot to go on, so this is of course purely speculation, but I get the feeling they don't know a lot of what is going on online. But I may be completely wrong on that, but yeah, they
It wouldn't surprise me at all that they're not paying attention.
yeah.
He's pleading. They've got him dead to rights. They've got other things they've moved on to.
And that's what it seems like. This is just like basic just run of the mill case for them. It's nothing special to them. It's the impression I get.
They're ready for it to kind of be over.
Yeah, it's just another case in their pile of cases, is what it feels like.
You've seen him. You've been at court with Nick a couple different times. You sat there and talked to him. Did he seem like different in demeanor and just the way he was carrying himself this time, or was it still kind of like he was the same vibe from him, more or less?
Like I said, I didn't get to see his body language a lot this time. I have seen a change as it's gone on. He's gone from in the very beginning, he emanated like an anger and like a quiet rage. That was just kind of, it seems like it was just like bursting at the seams in the first couple hearings to it has softened a lot, and he's gotten more. So right around the time that he was making the deal when April showed up to court, that he seemed a little humbled in that one. Then the next one, he seemed almost a little, the one where he talked to me, he seemed a little almost cocky in that one. And then this one, I didn't really get to judge, but
Okay,
there
I didn't
has
know if
been
you
a
could hear his
change.
voice. Okay,
Yeah,
April wasn't there this time, was she?
no, his voice, it was weird when he was talking into the microphone. He was, for somebody who works on camera, it was just weird. He was putting his mouth right on the microphone and talking really loud, but it was like muffled because must have been putting his mouth right on it. Yeah.
He was currently doing that.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm like, that's weird.
Were his parents or anybody there?
Nobody for him, nope, or nobody on their side. Two other people showed up to watch.
Who are they?
I mean, we talked a little bit. We don't ask each other names or any private information, so
There's a code.
we keep it.
No, the way of the
Yeah,
internet.
yeah. They just we talked about the case a little afterwards, compared notes, and went our separate ways. But they said they would be going to the sentencing in April. So I did have in here that that Brian Lewis was there representing him this time instead of his main lawyer. And I thought that was interesting. Is there a reason why his lawyer just maybe was busy, or?
Yeah, I mean, Lewis has already been entered in an appearance. He's part of, his, Nick's attorney, Frank White. It's part of his firm. So, for example, if you have 10 lawyers working for you, you can send one of them out because they represent the firm, they represent you. That's not uncommon at all. He maybe had, something to do where he just couldn't be there that day. So that's normal. That's normal.
I thought it was interesting that the prosecutor volunteered that he had already taken his assessment and that his chemical, I think the
Chemical
drug
assessments, yeah.
his chemical assessment, and that she volunteered without them even having to ask, that the one he's done already would suffice.
Well, that's important because, she's got to be in front of that judge all the time. But also just, for her, it's like, what, the judge is going to be like, why do we duplicate this? If you knew about it, why didn't you say something? That's just her getting, being proactive about it. Like, look, there's no need for it. That's not her sweeping or being positive. That's just, judge, we've already got information. The court has information it can use. It can get started on doing its PSI. It can get started on developing recommendations and things it needs to do. So that's just her way of just making sure the process kind of gets chugging along.
Okay.
So yeah, that's, I know a lot of people had questions about that. They asked me about.
Do you think he'll have to, since he did his,
he did a group.
Yeah, the outpatient drug rehab. Do you think that will suffice?
I doubt it. Because he's got a lot of substance abuse issues. He might be able to get away with saying, I don't have an addiction, but he was abusing the crap out of alcohol. He was abusing the crap out of cocaine. And, he's even made, all these statements about he thought he went I don't know how true it is, but he said he was contemplating self-harm for quite a while. Okay. Well, there's a lot of mental health, it's probably what they call in that industry a dual diagnosis, a mental health diagnosis plus a substance abuse issue. And they're going to want to address that. And those things aren't resolved right away. We heard Nick for months and months saying I would drink, he's talked about drinking multiple bottles of liquor in the meantime. And he's like, I really want to drink a lot, and, he keeps on saying drugs are cool. It's just something he's not speaking as somebody who, you talk to a lot of addicts, they're like, okay, yeah, drugs are really bad. I can't use them. They destroy my life and my family. This is where those statements could be used against him is like, Your Honor, whatever he didn't take. And, we don't know what that assessment said anyway. That assessment could have been a bunch of different things. So we really don't know at this point what he's supposed to do. And certainly the judge could order him to do other things as well. Now, as far as getting into super specific, I want this type of treatment thing for you. A lot of judges don't do that because they're not treatment experts. But I can see the judge saying, I want you to go to 12-step, or I want you to go to AANA. I want you in something, multiple times a week. Because, go get it done. And then, show your PO. Bring a notebook. Better be full of stamps by the time you meet them. Could be a number of things like that. But I don't think what's there is going to be enough. But in the meantime, he's only been on for this have only been 3 months till April. I don't see any judge saying, oh yeah, you're good, man. Have a good one, and tussle his hair and, tell him run along. He's going to be on this for a little while. I just don't know how long it's going to be.
You talked about a depression and him, wanting to harm himself, if so and such. He had talked about not paying his mortgage for 5 to 6 months due to being depressed. Do you think that'll come up anywhere in his hearings or anything like that? Or do you think the judge knows anything about that? And would that affect how the judge rules and going forward?
Well, I mean, if Nick was, well, I mean, part of the issue here is you want this judge to accept you into this because Nick isn't entitled to it as a matter of law. It's discretionary. The judge could deny it. So, for example, if Nick came in and told the probation department, like, I'm just doing this to just do what I got to do, which I've had clients do that before. And the judge said, because we have a similar thing in Ohio you can do where you can get through programming after a year or two, your case gets wiped out. I've had clients where they went in like a moron. It's like, yeah, I'm kind of doing this just because I got to do it. And the judge's like, well, I'm not going to put you in the program. So they're like, he hasn't guaranteed it yet, but I'm presuming he'll be smart enough to be honest with them. But we don't know. Who knows what'll happen?
Wow.
But no, like they take note of everything. What's your status of like, your family history, your employment history, your mental health, physical health. What's your criminal record look like? Your interactions in the legal system. They're going to note all those unpaid parking, all those traffic tickets Nick keep bouncing out on, which, all that the judge is going to be like, well, apparently you don't like following rules and you won't show up to court. Why should I do this for you? Like that. I don't know if the judge is going to do that, but I've seen judges bring that up before. People, you fail probation. I mean, this puts it in the same vein of like, well, why should we work with you? You're not going to come in. You're going to blow people off. Apparently, when the police pull you over for speeding, you're screaming like a loon at them. I mean, we've seen, think about it. Those are police reports for a speeding ticket, and the cop writes up a full-page report. That's usually like, they don't do that if they don't have to. But the cop felt like he had to document all that. So we've got all these concerns. We've got all these issues. The judge is going to probably have a lot of questions for Nick about like what are you doing? What's going on here? And I'm sure Nick could say like, yeah, because it does happen. Like, you start getting depressed, you start falling in a hole and you start missing one thing. And then, okay, well then, oh shit, now you're and it just keeps on snowballing. And that does happen. But yeah, they're going to take note of like, yeah, here's all the stuff that's probably gone on in his life because it's all public record. They'll know about it. And yeah, I could see all that being a factor at some point or another.
Well, okay. What about April? Do you think the judge will let him be around April going forward? Do you think that'll be like a special condition where he needs to stay away from her since I guess there were issues with the sentencing and since he fell on his sword for her? Do you think anything will come out of that?
I mean, it should. I mean, typically you're not allowed, part of your probation conditions are, and he's not on probation technically, but it's being governed by the probation department and he has to follow the probation department's rules. And they don't have really any other special rules. They're just going to be like, here's the probation terms and conditions. You're going to acknowledge I have to follow all these rules. And one of them is generally you can't hang out with people who are on probation. Now, Kayla's not going to be on probation, so that's great. But even let's say she was, they're husband and wife, they have a family, they're together. The court's not going to make them split up. So that wouldn't be an issue. But generally speaking, you can't hang out with people on probation, people engage in criminal conduct. Or in Nick's situation, and this happens a lot, I've had clients before, they're using drugs and they got a girlfriend and the probation officer tells them like, you guys don't live together, right? Good. Don't hang out with her anymore. Because Nick's like, oh, I love her. And now I miss her. And now, like, dude, you can't be hanging out with people like that. You guys were doing drugs and they found her in the house with a Coke, in the bedroom. Like, like the part of this treatment program and these rules are, whatever happened, we have to force you to think a different way and change your thinking and change how you act. I hate to use the term buck breaking, but they basically have to break him. He's like a wild horse. Like we're going to have to teach you how to act like a civilized adult again. And part of that is you don't hang around shitheads who do shithead things. Sorry, well, I forget you're recording, but it's I use it all the time in court. If you're hanging out with stupid people doing stupid things at stupid places, you get stupid results. And right now for Nick, okay, well, he doesn't go anywhere, so that eliminates a lot of problems. But he doesn't hang out with stupid people like April, and they're doing drugs and they're doing stupid things. Well, that eliminates a lot of the problems. So, yeah, I could easily see them saying they're not allowed to hang out, especially because they were co-defendants for quite a while, and there's no contention she wasn't there. It's just whatever Nick was able to do. Like I said, that's where I've been. You wouldn't just be able something like they wouldn't just do that willy-nilly and say, oh yeah, we'll throw everything else out. So, but like I said, I have my own theories on what happened there.
Speaking of stupid things, Aaron Imholt, do you think his situation with Nick and the court and such like that, will that have any effect on what the judge sees? Do you think the judge knows about the litigation going on between Rekieta and Imholt?
No, because not at this point, because it's really Kayla. It's not Nick. So that's not a concern there. And then I know there's the issue about the internet stuff and like kind of the unauthorized access to the computer and all that. He hasn't been charged with any of that. So that's not really necessarily relevant for the court's consideration. Even if, let's say, he had been formally charged, I'm Nick's attorney, he hasn't been convicted and he's innocent until proven guilty. So that would probably be a point. But the court would just say, yeah, it's concerning. Like, while you're in the middle of whatever you're doing, apparently you decided to engage in more like behavior that caused the police to want to come look at you. Now, whether or not it was a crime, fine, that, but the judge will say, you just don't understand. Apparently, like, whatever you thought this was acceptable conduct. And let's say maybe it's not that it's illegal, but like, what the hell are you doing, homie? Is the court going to say, like, apparently you thought this was a good idea. This wasn't a good idea. Why did you have to do this? And this is, once again, the more of the idea of, okay, well, this is a program, and I don't know if they use it in Minnesota, but it's common in a lot of places, called Thinking for a Change. And it sounds funny, but no, it really is a thing, though, because being impulsive, you're having a problem. Okay, well, how do you handle that problem? Okay, well, think about it. Don't do something stupid or rash. Well, this guy is pissing, Aaron kind of blew everything up. Okay, well, worry about getting clean, worry about getting your life back on track. Instead of like, I'm going to leak, his search history, some yahoos on YouTube. It's like, well, what? Why? Think for a change. Yeah. And I think that's going to be, part of what he needs to do is just learn how to kind of like, you got to worry about yourself. You got a whole mess of crap you have to fix right now. So.
Do you know who Chad Zumach is?
Yes, I know Chad. Yes.
Okay, so
I know Chad because he got his, he was here on the big radio station here in Cleveland, the big rock station. So I was very familiar with him.
Oh, wow. You guys talked before at all or anything?
No. I always heard him on the radio. So
I'm going to connect you. Chad's a friend of mine. Yeah. We call him the Mud Shark or General Mud.
Well, it's going to be careful. And I know Chad has since leaned into it, but Mud Shark means a couple different things depending on who you talk to.
Oh, he knows.
Yeah, I know.
So the reason why I ask you that is TM Zumach brought up, I saw the clip this morning, maybe it was from yesterday, that there was a possibility that the child failed 2 drug tests. Do you think that is just BS or?
No, when I heard about it from there is the first, somebody told me to watch that and I watched the clip. First time I've ever heard of any of that.
Wow.
So
what do you think about the drug hair and the child possibly coming up positive or coming up positive?
The idea of this drug test, this like blood test or whatever they formally ran, which, you can detect it there, but that's like, it's just like when you're at that point, it's like, how fast is it burning out of your system because it metabolizes and it's gone. I don't want to lean into saying it's complete kayfabe or complete nonsense. I'm assuming, and I try to give everybody the benefit of the doubt, somebody heard something and they misunderstood something along the way and information got passed. Because if they really had that kind of like piping hot information, we would have heard about it probably at some point, or there may have been charges for it at that point. I don't know. I don't see that being true at all. As far as like, are you talking about the hair follicle test? What do I think about that? Well, I mean, we hear the cop was rubbing cocaine in her hair and that, benzoleconine, Nick, that's how you pronounce it, benzoleconine. Or, you can have ecgonine methyl ester. Like there are a bunch of cocaine metabolites out there. But like benzoleconine, yes, it can metabolize externally, but you need like boiling hot water. You need like 200 degree, like you need extreme temperature, not, somebody getting sweaty hair. Because I too can read scientific journals in abstracts. But the idea, I guess we've heard so many theories that the lab is wrong. Some reason Nick is bringing in the idea that hair follicle tests are racist towards black people, which you're not black, your kids aren't black, so I don't know. That they're false positives, but they were also rubbing cocaine in her hair. So, like, they all can't be true.
Oh, and they wouldn't let him retest.
Well, there's no
That's
like Nick's not, Nick didn't stand up there and scream, well, I want to retest. We didn't get a chance to retest. All that he did, it wasn't brought up in his trial, though maybe they did later, but the thing got sealed, so we don't know. And I still bring up the whole idea of, we heard, Nick's like, oh, my kids are back. And everybody's like, oh my God, they're back. And then he says later on in the fall, oh, well, the trial period's over. It's like, yeah, it's not over. And now they're home. It's like, but are they like, what's the status? And, I know if the case was closed and agency involved was terminated, you'd see Nick screaming and waving a freaking paper around in the air. It's like, well, we don't have that either. So I'm sure it's not over. I'm sure there's a very loosened, supervision at this point, but we don't really know. We don't know what's going on there. And like I said, the biggest problem is Nick is not a reliable narrator at this point. So it's hard to say for sure, but I wouldn't be surprised the kids thing is, valid. As far as like the hair follicle test, like I said, I've said this a million times. Mom and dad are doing the drugs so bad they quit paying their mortgage, and the house is like a Haitian refugee camp at some point. And it's like, oh, the kid gets exposed to drugs. That's like, how many times that happens in America? Happens like every day, everywhere.
Do you think Mel will get the body camera?
I don't know how that's gonna work. That whole thing, the way Minnesota does all that is weird. So I don't know how that's gonna shake out. I mean, it'd be interesting if we got it. I mean, ultimately, Nick's got it. He can always show it if he wants to. In April, you're out there, $6,000 sitting there. That's a great, if you want to get your life back on track, you can. If you want to go get a big old bag of Coke, or you want to smoke a big old rock, whatever it is, $6,000 gets you a long way. So, or Nick, if you want $6,000, here you go, man.
Kay, what do you think?
A lot of people are saying that if the child would have tested positive, that there's no way they would have given back custody so quickly. And I know that's not the case. I know that they, reunification is their number one goal, and that anything they can do to avoid putting kids in the system, they will do. And talking to some locals around here, I was told of a case where there was a husband and wife where their 3 kids, all 3 tested positive for methamphetamine, and they took the kids for a short time. The parents weren't even complying that well with the things that they set forth, and then they still got them back pretty quick. I think it was about the same time period, for them to all test positive again, all the kids, for methamphetamine, again, all 3 of them.
Yeah.
And then they still were given the chance to get them back. They did for a short time. Then the parents split up, and the father went to court to try to, when they did take away their rights, the father went to court and fought even further, even though he wasn't complying with the drug test, and that he had been diagnosed with antisocial personality, a lot of personality disorders, along with the substance abuse disorder and all of it. And just the amount of chances they got and the amount of leeway they gave these parents is shocking. And so it's, people think that there's no way they would get them back, and it's not true.
You really have to work really hard in getting, had Nick and Caleb both not gotten pinched that day, there's say probably 50-50 shot the kids would have probably stayed in the house. There would have been a safety plan, and there would have been the dependency case going forward anyway. But yeah, it's not the standard of parenting that's legally allowed to keep your kids is actually pretty abysmal. But that's, people have the right to be really shitty parents. And to be fair, when the agency showed up at the house, like I said, when I covered the CPS hearing that we actually did get access to, even Nick's parents are like, "Oh yeah, it took us like the whole 3-day weekend to clean the house to like a bare minimum acceptable level for the agency." Like I'm sure the parent, like CPS showed up and they're like, "This is like every other crack shack we walk into." Well, now they're like, "Oh, wait, mom and dad own the home. The house is free and clear. There's housing stability. They do have a family support network that is capable and able to take care of them, not just by being there, but like there is financial support available. There are things going on." So a lot of the things they're always concerned about have been kind of alleviated just because, finally the government got involved. And as I said before, CPS is bad, but it's like when you're doing this stuff in your house, like, it's bad as it sounds, like the government is going to get involved. The type of situation where that happens. And then, apparently Kayla and Nick got their immunity and they finally told them like, "Okay, here's what we're doing and we're fully cooperative." That really helps a lot. That really does help a lot.
They do tick a lot of the boxes for the things that they are looking for
Yeah.
of the kids' needs.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
they have all that going for them.
Yeah, I mean, you normally children's service case, especially ones where like I take them because I think people do need help. They deserve proper representation because sometimes the county is really improperly taking kids out of a home, and even if they're not, I give them advice and try to help them figure it out. Like, okay, you need help with your utilities. You need help with rent. We need to find you a new place. You need like basically they had to light everything in the apartment on fire because it's full of scabies and nasty crap. It's like, okay, here are these programs. Here's this going on. Here's that going on. Your boyfriend's beating you. Okay, well, here's a women's organization that will help you. They will put you in a safe house. They'll take your kids and keep you in that safe. Like, there's a lot of things that you normally have to in these situations. Thankfully for Nick and Kayla, they weren't in that situation. The biggest one is just quit shoving coke up your nose. That was really one of the biggest ones. And after that, yeah, it's a pretty stable house. And the fact that, I'm sure Nick isn't father of the year at this point, but you don't have to be to keep your kids. I mean, the threshold of keeping your kids is a very, very low bar to start with.
Something I've learned with dealing with people who are addicts is you really just have to judge by their actions. You can't take their word for anything. Like, really, 100% just judge on their actions. That's it.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah, makes sense. Sean, you've known Nick kind of like about as long as I have. I assume since like the IBS days, the Medicare days, the Boulder Stream, Tonka.
Yeah, Tonka saw. It was, well, I remember watching those, so it was weird. It's weird to find myself in those things. It's weird to find myself in this, like Jim Medicare knows who I am.
Audience, thoughts? Any super chatters out there want to talk about this guy getting ambushed by the fact that his wife is banging a fiend? Anybody? Oh, we got $10 from Will Heron. It says, ha 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 ha. How's that hot tub stream hitting you now, buddy?
And I'm like, oh, that's cool. And then like, yeah, like I've talked to Ethan Ralph. Like these people know who I am. Like, it is very interesting. It's very interesting to be in the world that you once, the lore so much about.
What's it like seeing him go from there through the explosion of the Rittenhouse and then the Johnny Depp and then the loft and the hill that he was on to what he's dealing with now?
The fates detest hubris. And, I'm sure, I know Nick says something bad happened in his life, but, whatever it is, I mean, just given how he reacts to things, I'm like, was it really that bad? Was it even a bad thing? And then just literally, just that one thing happens. It's almost, it's just like that one feather landed on him and he just went straight boom, boom, right into the ground. It's like, he literally, he had it all. He had all and then flew it all away. And it's like, I mean, at times it's a little, it's sad to see, but it's also infuriating. You see somebody, they had everything and then literally just light it all on fire. And you're like, you're just seeing that. And then I will also say, like I've actually been able to run into other people and I've had the chances to meet other people through doing all this stuff. And, they're like, well, oh, so like they know about Nick. And I know that's kind of messed with things, even for myself. And I'm like, well, I guess I'll have to wait for a little while for this all to lay low. But it's like, yeah, like I the tertiary effects of what's been done. It's kind of like the whole Destiny thing right now. He's literally poisoned it for all these people, and it's like, yeah, you kind of do ruin it. You cause a lot of tertiary damage to, all kinds of people along the way. Don't tempt the fates. Do not tempt the fates. Is all I can say.
If I remember correctly, you all had had a falling out before all of this had happened, and I think you guys were trying to become friends again, and then something had happened. What happened there?
No. I mean, really, like the whole him yelling at me thing. I didn't really take any problem with it. I mean, I've kind of figured, he's all upset at the, Josh and the farms and whatever. Okay. But really, I mean, it was just the way he was acting. Like, I'm just like, this stuff's not cool anymore. I'm not, I'm never going to go work for the Vatican, but like, the straight up like heretical shit spewing out of his mouth. Like, I truly do believe that Jesus is my Lord and Savior, and there's only one way to salvation, and that's through him. And for him to sit there on a stream and just say, Jesus is just some bro, and all these just straight up blasphemous shit. And it's like, if you catch what, like, it's one thing if you want to say all this stuff, but like, God forbid anybody out there actually listens to you, and like you send people to hell. Like, 'cause I think that's a true thing. Like, there's stuff he was doing I didn't like. I didn't want, like, a lot of shit he was doing wasn't cool. And then like just getting plastered every night. Like, it's like, I'm like, okay, like, great. That's not really like, that's kind of a lot of stuff that soured it there. As far as like what he did with his own personal life, I think, you want to go to hedonism or whatever. I'm like, okay, that's really fucking weird or whatever. Go for it. You want to take some Molly once in a while. Like, oh, okay, like that's not my thing. But it was other stuff he did. I was like, yeah, I'm not down with that. And, certainly I'm going to like laugh at the other stuff he's doing. Like, you're going to Hedo. It's like, okay, I am going to laugh at those things. It's like, I'm laughing at him. Like, I don't disapprove of them, but it really was just the way he started living his life. I'm like, I don't, that stuff's not good. It's not cool.
I'm not someone to judge people as long as there's no victims involved. Like if you're going to go blow up your life, go blow up your life. I really am not going to give two thoughts about it. But when there are victims involved, and to me, his kids are very much victims, no matter what he claims. Yeah, then that's when I get interested in, the him throwing away all the advantages he was given in life. That's infuriating. Like Sean said, it's hard to watch. How he's acting after this too is, um, he has stated that the kids aren't victims in this. I think that was on a Dick Masterson show or something. He said the kids weren't victims, and I personally that affects me on a level that makes me want to like lash out. And that's, I had to take a step back from all of this. It was, I was getting emotionally invested, and to get so emotionally invested in something that I have no control over, it's just like I need to take a step back. This is affected me on a level that I had to stop. I do think I thank him because I had a chance to stop and work on some things, do some self improvement work on things that I hadn't I didn't even know that was still there. But it's hard to watch. The whole thing is hard to watch. And his hypocrisy is maddening and all of that. But
right now he's a guy who ran through the minefield ahead of you, so now you know where not to step. I mean, it's kind of like that demotivational poster is sometimes your life is just meant to be an example for others of what not to do. And it's like, okay, well, there we go.
Thanks.
I'll make sure I don't. Yeah, now this is the situation though where I'm like, I already knew not to do all that, but it's like further reinforcing of the situation. Like, okay,
yeah,
great.
My mom gave me the blueprint of where not to step. So and I still fell in some of those holes myself. But
Yeah, but I mean, but just overall in general, it's just, I will say it's given me pause just to think about things and, like just doing all this internet stuff. It is the internet. And, given me pause to think about how I handle things and how I do stuff too. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's like nobody. He's not like this. Isn't he's not a the first guy to ever do this. So we're like, we need to learn about all these things. This idea called an addiction, and then wait, you can't do all that. It's like, no, everybody knew all this. So that's really the sad part is like, it's not like he didn't know about this. It's not like this is 2007 and the opioids and everything's flaring out of control and people are getting hooked on oxy. And, like we had to learn through that. And I went through law school. They were still learning how to figure out to deal with like the opioid crisis. And then as I started practicing in 2014, it's 10 years ago now. Like we were just now getting a handle on things, like using Vivitrol with all the different treatment options and how we could really help people. So it's like, I get like, we're all caught up in it. Some lily white, kid in the suburbs dies and everybody's like, how did he get heroin? And, we're like at a point where it's like, what the 80s were like 35 years ago, man. Like what part of this did we not get? I guess.
Is there a redemption arc for him?
I'm sure there is. There's a redemption arc for Hitler if he wanted, like if he survived. I mean, everybody has redemption at the end of the day.
If they choose to take it.
Yeah, there's getting right with whatever your internal demons are, whatever your problems are, it's always there for people. Now, does the community have to accept you or like any of it? No, they don't have to. But at that point, you're doing it for yourself. You're not doing it for acceptance. Like Kay, I don't know, like your whole story. I know you shared some of it, but like your mom, like, I don't know if she ultimately got right with herself at the end before things happened to her. She's not with us anymore, right?
No, she passed from an Oxycontin overdose in 1999.
I mean, it's all up to, and I hope I don't like make it too personal, but everybody always has the path to redemption, and you don't have to like, even if Hitler's like, oh, I found Jesus, and hey guys, sorry, I'm gonna go through all like, sorry, my bad, he stopped the war and done everything and gave up. Okay, sorry, we're still gonna kill you, we're still gonna execute you. Sorry, we gotta can't undo that. But he could get his own personal redemption arc. I still hope Nick gets better, but that better for him is going to be a long road, and it's going to be a vastly different life than what he had before this, and you never get back to it. When people with addiction even admit that, like, it's kind of like, I had a client tell it to me. The guy's a mechanic. He's like, it's like when your car gets in a crash. Sure, we can rebuild it, but it's never the same. It's always going to be just a little different at the best. But a lot of times it never runs right. It's not like something's clearly not the same, and it's like, yeah, I'm sure he's going to try to come back to this. It's never going to be back what he had before. Camelot, and I don't mean Camelot the streamer, but it's kind of like, JFK when he died. Like, Camelot's over. Like, the fairy tale ended. Like, it's we now have we now have the land of the real we live in, or however Morpheus phrased it. I hope it gets better. It's just going to be a long road, and I don't know if he's ready for that. I hope he gets it. I hope he does it. I hope his in a couple of years from now, his kids and all them, they can say like, yeah, it was tough, Dad. We love you. We're still here for you, and everybody can move on from it. But that's not going to be a quick fix, at least from the experiences I've seen.
Kay, do you think he can do it?
He could if he put in if he truly wants to change. Anybody can if they put in the work and are willing to do the work. But by all signs that he is showing by his interviews and every time he speaks out publicly, is he hasn't learned anything. He seems to, just like how he described like the addicts that he went to the outpatient the treatment, like he put himself in a different class. He's not like them, and that's a big red flag there. And then that he doesn't put himself in at the same level as them. And then him talking about like the when CPS came in, that they're not used to dealing with people like him. Like, he still seems to have an inflated sense of who he is, and until he puts him down at himself the level of he's just like everybody else. He's not special. He doesn't have anything that makes him different than anybody else. and I don't think he's going to change until he can at least get to that level to start from.
And I mean, the ultimate thing too is though, I mean, recovery is, the amount of people out there who are constantly in recovery. And I don't mean people who successfully, they're an addict and they admit that, yes, I'm still addicted and one day at a time. There's people who struggle and they never actually get on top of it ever. Or they kind of do, but their life's still a disaster zone. And it's just, they go through phases. So, I mean, those are the, and like, I know Andrew Bronca said it, and I don't mean to say it. Like I said, Nick, if you listen to this and it spites you and you're like, I'll show the fat man. Good. I hope if that's got to be your motivation is to spite me. I've been doing pretty good since my birthday. I've actually losing some weight here. I'm doing pretty good. And if you can get clean, if you can get cleaner if you can get sober before I can get skinnier, great. I mean, do that as a booyah. That'll be the ultimate booyah. I'll be happy to say it. An L for Sean and a dub for Nick, a big old dub. The odds are not in his favor. Addiction is a monster, and a lot of people can't get out from underneath it, and it's all kinds of addictions.
Is there anything you would say to Nick if he was in front of you? What if he wasn't in front of you? What would you say to him?
Please, get your life in order, dude. Find Jesus. Take care of your family. What you're doing ain't working. It's not working. And where you're at right now is not working. Yeah, great. The police aren't kicking it on your door right this second. Okay, so yes, but what you're doing ain't working. You really need to. Yeah, please get better. Please get better.
Yeah, I would like for him to really just do some self-evaluation, to put his family as his priority, to stop concentrating on what Aaron did or did not consume, or Hackmania, or all of these, the boxing. It's all ridiculous. It's his priority should be with his family and with his kids and fixing his life. And and actions speak louder than words.
Sean, have you ever dealt with any kind of cases like this where there was an outside semi-mainstream media presence where people kind of came in, or normal-looking people, just more than you would normally expect people to care about?
When I was working in the prosecutor's office at one point, we had a couple of times where that happened. It was my first day on the job at the one office I was at. These two ladies stole $400,000 from the local bank when they were working there. And it was the first hearing I was doing. They're like, oh yeah, you're just telling them no, we're not letting them off probation. They need to keep paying. And, the news is there and all these people are there. But other than that, I've been, pretty lucky, thank God that I haven't had anything I do turn into a sideshow with a client. So I know I know other attorneys who have, and it's definitely a thing where, people are watching, but they've never been to the point where the Dabbleverse or something like The Sector has been involved. But like I said, knock on wood for now.
I had covered some cases before where I had to go to the courthouse, and the state courthouse is public. So I can be there right outside of the actual courtroom where they're going to be in. There's a glass window where we can get shots and things like that. But, these big trials, there's a lot of emotion, and the families are there and things like that. And I had one time where I was kind of just getting my normal shot, like a million camera people have done, and they're just kind of passing it out. But this family just didn't like me. And they walk past and goes, you don't have to do that. And I was like, I'm sorry, I'm just getting these shots. And they're like, she's gone through enough. You know that. And I'm just like, again, sorry. You get a lot of raw emotion is basically what I'm getting at. And you've dodged some of that, Sean?
I've had that in general, just from either prosecuting people or, when you're dealing with the defendant and the victim's families there, and they're really upset about how things are going and it's not going the way they want. So yeah, I've had those issues before. I've, especially in domestic violence cases where your guy, things are getting dismissed or getting tossed and they're very upset about it. So yeah, I've had that happen before where, tensions start flaring.
True. Sean, if I want to go to Potentially Criminal and check you out, where can I find you? Not on Twitter.
Not on Twitter right now. Apparently, Twitter thinks I had inauthentic accounts. I don't know why I'm appealing it. They automatically determine that, so I'll see what happens. I don't know. So not on Twitter right now, but on YouTube, Potentially Criminal. So that's where you're going to find me now.
You
And
got
on
a
Rumble,
locals
it's
channel
Gently
too.
Criminal.
You got more? No.
What?
Locals. I want to get
Oh, yeah.
people
Oh,
there
you
as
can
well.
start. Yeah. Sorry. Potentiallycriminal.locals.com. That's where you can find me there as well.
Hey, man, thank you
Okay.
very much for your time, dude.
Yeah, thanks.
And also, Meme Copium, he was really cool too. I believe he sent you a Discord and stuff like that.
Yeah,
That guy
Josh
is so awesome. He's been so cool to me.
Yeah, no, Josh is a great guy. Very, very smart guy. Enjoy talking to him. He's fun to hang out with.
My test with him is I watched one of his streams, I think yesterday, and I only watch his Ricada streams because that's the only thing I really know about. But it was enjoyable to hear him talk about something different. Like I was enjoying listening to him, and then he seemed knowledgeable about the topic. So I really do like Meme Copium. I might be showing my cards in there, but
Yeah, he's very well researched, and also he's got another channel. This is kind of like his side channel just for funds. He runs another channel. It's about basically kind of like, Japanese tour, like because he lives in Japan, and it's like just doing tours, doing tourist destinations in Japan, and being able to talk about them and visiting them, and he films it. And, like that's his primary job. It's actually does pretty good at it. So it's actually very interesting. It's called Inuyaka Adventures.
definitely check that out. Sean, thank you very much again. I appreciate you, buddy.
Well, thanks,
Yeah,
Kate.
thank you.
Nice to meet you. Take care,
Nice
you guys.
to meet you too.
Well, as you guys saw, Sean was so cool to give us a little bit of time. Got to thank him a million times over as well. Kay, well, I was going to say, if you want people to find you, you don't. So anything you'd like to say before I say goodbye to everybody?
I think we covered everything.
Nailed it. Awesome. Again, thank you everybody for hanging out. Appreciate you all. If you had an opportunity, maybe push that subscribe button, the like as well. And go to Sean's channel, make sure Potentially Criminal, hit the subscribe button there as well. Like on all of his videos, give him that bump, give him that TV's wiring bump that everybody does. Anyways, that was dumb. I'll cut that out, hopefully. All right. Again, thank you all very, very much. Have a great rest of whatever part of the day you're in.